Hello. A couple of months ago my workshop here was a total mess, and so I put up a couple of shelves to get organised, and I took everything outside and gave it a big clean and built some handy tool holders, and I fixed my tracks onto the wall and sorted through a heap of scrap wood and generally just made it a lot cleaner and neater and nicer to be in. So let me show you how I did that. So a couple of months ago now, I just put a coat of oil onto this shelf here, and while I was waiting for it to soak in, I started looking around the workshop and I realised just how messy the place was. I just finished building the drawers, which I put in under the cabinets back home, which there are full build videos for, and it felt really chaotic. I wasn't planning on tidying that day, but it was like so bad I just couldn't stop myself. I'm really looking forward to making a couple of things in the coming months, and it'll be way easier to do that in a tidier space. At first I was just doing some small bits, thinking that would make any difference whatsoever, but it soon became pretty clear that a much bigger organisation was needed. So I was kind of looking around last night wondering, like, how can I make this more organised? You know, there's lots of bits that just hang around and have nowhere to go, really. And I realized, like, this spot up here is kind of perfect for a shelf for that kind of stuff. I didn't want to buy shelf brackets because they can be kind of expensive. Wasn't in the mood to make them, so I got a load of these right angle brackets for pretty cheap. I'm thinking if I mount them this way, I can sit the shelf on top, and then I won't lose as much space as I would with like a typical shelf bracket. This is one of those things where it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, I think. And now just to make 2 cuts, all of this stuff has to go somewhere else. That's why I'm trying to make this better, because I'm sick of doing this. The tight quarters made filming up there pretty challenging. And I was up with the light, so it got very warm. So I've cut out as much of the grunting and swearing as I could for your viewing pleasure. Cool, that's like plenty strong. Basically, I got 4 of those little L brackets in along the back wall, and then I put one on either end of the shelf on the side walls for some extra support. I didn't really move stuff maybe as much as I should. I'm kind of just balancing around it. Over there was particularly tricky. That's just the paints and finishes and glues that didn't have anywhere else to go, and already that has made a huge difference because they were just like sat out. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have panned around. It doesn't really illustrate the huge difference that has been made, but my dad's chainsaw has just been sat here for I don't know how long, so I think I'm just gonna stick that up there. It'll take up a pretty big chunk of the shelf, but it will give me back so much of the workbench, so I think it's worth it. Ooh, the handle kind of fits down into the slope of the roof. That's nice. I kind of was hoping that I could get everything outside today, give the place a proper clean. But as you can hear, it's absolutely bucketing down, so it's going to have to be a different day. Can you even hear me over that? I feel like I need to shout. But yeah, I think all I have the energy to do is throw some tools back up onto the tool wall, and then I'll call it a day. It's still going to look like, you know, an absolute disaster, but I do think some good progress has been made here today, and it won't take long to, like, get it back in order. Well, they almost didn't fit. I did not think to measure for that. I was about to leave and I spotted this paste wax down there. I think it will fit into that tiny spot that nothing else will fit in. Oh, you love to see it. The next weekend was dry enough that I could take everything out and give the place a proper hoover, so that was all the big stuff like my workbench, table saw, miter saw stand, and then a load of sheet material that was leaning against the wall. What am I planning on building that I have all of this scrap? And there's more. There's more against this wall. There's more in the corner. There's more up there. There's more on the rack. There's more down there. What am I planning on building? I don't want it to get to the point again where dust is built up like this, so I'm going to start taking dust collection more seriously. And in fact, I already have since I started the big cleanup. Eventually I'll set up a proper system, but I'm a little bit limited in what I can do for now. When I brought all the sheet goods back inside, I tried to stack them up in a way where everything was visible at a glance. Before, there was so much of it, and it was so messy, disorganised. A lot of the smaller stuff was hidden behind bigger sheets, so I just didn't really know what I had to hand. have to head home soon, as always. Didn't get as much done as I wanted to. But I think I'm going to try out a new old layout. The bench used to be there and the miter saw used to be there. Kind of give me more floor space. And then I'm just going to move all that junk in, leave it in a pile and sort it out next time I'm here. Why would I keep these? These are just like half-inch strips of plywood. I mean, I'm putting them back because today isn't the day to sort them, but why would I keep those? I'm actually getting tired walking back and forth. There's so much of this stuff. I went on holiday for a week after the big Hoover, and I made a plan for the rest of the workshop in my notebook on the plane. And so the next thing that I decided to do was to make some simple little brackets to store my circular saw track on the wall in 2 halves. For the last year or more, I've had some stuff leaning against the wall. You'll see them in a sec. There's a straight edge and some spirit levels and a cutting guide. And one day, a few months ago, I got so tired of constantly kicking them over that I just started attaching them to the wall. And I had been waiting to dream up the perfect solution, but in the end, I just did it on a whim, and it's made my life so much better. I was planning to store these horizontally, and I was going to make a little latch to stop them from tipping forwards and falling. And then I realized I was way overcomplicating it, and if I put them up at an angle, they'd just be held in place by gravity. That works so well. I feel mad that I didn't do it sooner. Cool. It would be nice if I got the angle right. Like if it was like that, it wouldn't look quite as good. If I can get them parallel, that'd be great. Oh, bit of a problem here. So because of this part, it sticks a little further away from the wall at the top here, so it doesn't sit nicely. I think I'll just put like a little block behind this to raise it away from the wall, and that'll be fine. That looks so good. That was so quick and easy. I think this is probably my favorite thing to come out of this video. The ratio of how simple it was to how much frustration it solved cannot be overstated. And I think it looks great too. The next thing I want to do is just build a quick little shelf to keep all my table saw stuff in the one spot. There's quite a few bits now. I've got a micro jig ripper and a couple of push pads. I've got a stop block and some hold down clamps, which I use with my crosscut sled. And then a couple of push sticks, which I can hang on the wall next to it. Much like the rest of the stuff that has been causing me the biggest problems here, I just haven't had anywhere permanently to put it, so a little shelf will help me get organized there. I'm not going to go too much into this thing in the interest of keeping the video under an hour, but I used it as a nice opportunity to practice some new things. So there's a slight change of plan here. I want the back to be made from this 1/4 inch ply, but I actually don't have one piece that's long enough to stretch the full distance. I didn't realize it was going to be like 22 inches. So what I'm going to do is stack these pads up like this and then put in a little divider here. So then I can cut a piece for the back here and then a separate piece that will span this gap, and that'll solve it. My original plan was to use a 1/2 inch bit in the router and cut a groove out here that this could slot down into. But what I've just decided to do is pull this back slightly from the edge, and so I don't want that groove to be visible. So what I'm going to do is go back to the router table and do just what I've done here on the back edge. Put a tongue on this bottom and then cut a 5mm groove that will stop around here. But it will look like this, and it'll be set down into the base, but you won't see it. I think it's going to be really cool. I don't think I knew the name of what I was trying to do here at the time, but it's called a stopped dado. And I'd never done one before, but it's really fun to try new things on workshop projects where there are no stakes. You can mess up and it's fine. Alright, so I did say I wasn't going to go too in depth on this, but making the rest of it was handy enough. I cut the rest of the pieces to the correct dimensions, if you can believe it. I cut some angles on the sides and the divider, mostly for aesthetics, and then I glued everything together. Oh yeah, I was pretty happy with the solution. I wanted more clamping pressure on the front of the divider with the stop dado, and I realised I could sit the offcut in place, and that would stop the clamp from slipping. That's pretty good. So while that glue dried, I decided there was no way to put it off any longer, and I finally had to start sorting through the piles of scrap wood. I think I used to keep everything just in case, but over time I've gotten better at identifying what will actually be useful and what is like too small to really be safely usable. This is a pile that I initially was like, okay, yeah, that's useful. And the more I'm looking through it, the more I realize it can go. And this is stuff that I am actually getting rid of. And obviously there's more on the shelves up here. But right now I have to turn my attention back to this glue up because I have to go real soon. So the next weekend, I came over and finally had to tackle the back workbench. Over the course of organising, it became this place to dump things that I wasn't really ready to sort yet. And so I got that in a much better shape in just a half an hour, but it left me with a load of weird bits that I had to figure out where to store. And that's where weeks of putting off sorting through the scrap on my other workbench worked to my benefit, because I probably would have gotten rid of these pieces of tongue and groove flooring. And while once again looking around and wondering where I could put stuff, I realized that in the same way that I'd built a shelf high up at the back of the shed, I could put one above the door too. I should probably address the paneling not being finished on the ceiling. Basically, I was doing that probably a couple of years ago now, and then I got distracted by something else. And I never finished it. That's it. Just never went back to it. It's been like that since. You might have noticed there's a section of wall paneling that's also not done, but I'm not taking the blame for that. My dad started that, but he didn't put any framing in to fix the paneling onto. And so recently he was joking, saying, when are you going to finish my wall? And I was like, well, you did such a bad job. I'm not really sure how to continue. I think the answer is just removing it and starting that section again, which, you know, I will also try to do soon. Anyway, I got the shelf up, and it's a little bit smaller than the other one because I didn't have as many floorboards, but, you know, very helpful to get some miscellaneous stuff out of the way. Also, off camera, I sorted through the rack that I have on the wall, and then there was just a couple of things to do to call this big reorganization done. As well as that shelf for all my table saw stuff, I also built this for my corner clamps, but this one's getting kind of long, so the build for this is going to be its own video in the future, I think. Right now I'm going to figure out where I want to put this on the wall, and then get a cleat put on the back of it. Oy. I recorded the build for this, but I never made a video. But it's kind of clever. I made a holder for my circular saw, but I just figured this was a lot of dead space, so I hinged it, and it has the circular saw guide and some what is that, angle grinder accessories and stuff in there. So it's kind of clever. I did not plan that, but it just so happens that the gap that I left is about the width of 2 push sticks. So there it is. As I said before, this place is a lot nicer to spend time in now. Still plenty to do, of course. I said that while looking at the half-finished wall over there. But I'm going to park all that stuff for now so I can get back to actual projects. Although, I haven't spent a lot of time out here in the last few months. I started filming this in July. It's December now. And actually, you may have noticed the wall's a little bare behind me. A lot of the tools are over at my house because I've been up to something over there. I built a workshop. Anyway, I'm going to talk more about that in my Everything I Made in 2024 yearly video I do at the end of the year. That will be out pretty soon, sometime before the new year anyway. But for now anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.